You spent $25 on a bag of light roast specialty coffee. You bought it for the florals, the citrus, the brightness someone roasted into it on purpose. And then you brewed it with the iced method most likely to soften the very notes you paid for. Same coffee, 2 extraction temperatures, 2 very different cups. But one method keeps the coffee tasting specific, and the other can make a great light roast taste weirdly anonymous. Here's why. Cold brew has had a hell of a decade. From a niche immersion technique your one weird friend made in a mason jar, to a full menu category at Starbucks, Dunkin', every cafe in the country. And the reason cold brew won so completely is the marketing, which has been telling you the same 3 things for 10 years. Smooth, less acidic, better for your stomach. And cold brew, on its own terms, mostly delivers all 3. The problem isn't that cold brew lies. The problem is what you put inside it. Because the original cold brew pitch was aimed at a very specific problem. Dark, bitter, mass-market coffee served cold. If your coffee tastes burnt when it's hot, then a cold extraction that mutes bitterness can feel like magic. It rounds the edges off. It makes cheap coffee taste calmer. But specialty coffee changed the input. Now the bag is not just trying to avoid bitterness. It's trying to show you something specific. To see why, look at what cold brew was actually built to solve. You'll read that cold brew goes back to 1600s Kyoto. The Japanese had cold extraction. For tea, coffee reached Ojima, but Japanese coffee culture doesn't really begin until 1888. The actual story starts in colonial Algeria. Cold brew didn't become popular by accident. It solved real problems. One early cold coffee story is Mazagran. French colonial troops near the fortress of Mazagran in the 1830s and 40s drank coffee syrup mixed with cold water, preserved in William Euchre's 1922 history. Even Euchre hedged it. He wrote, "It is said, when it reached Paris, it became a tall glass cafe drink. Cold, sweet, built for heat. Then coffee concentrate solved a different problem. In 1880 Glasgow, Camp Coffee turned coffee and chicory into a shelf-stable essence. Not cold brew, but the same instinct. Make coffee portable. And cold water extraction itself wasn't new. In 1887, an American cookbook called 6 Cups of Coffee published a recipe for cold water coffee. Soak overnight, heat at serving. By 1922, Euchre's was documenting Cuban coffee made through a flannel sack and Brazilian coffee steeped cold for hours. So when Toddy arrived in 1966, it didn't invent cold brew. A Houston engineer named Oscar Simpson, known to most as Todd, patented a home device after a Latin American trip. What Toddy invented was the American smoothness story. Then the 2010s. Stumptown bottled it in Portland. Chameleon bottled it in Austin. Cuvée Coffee pulled the first nitro pint. Starbucks rolled it out nationwide in 2015. By 2020, it was on every menu in America. Cold brew was built to solve real problems. Heat, convenience, cold water extraction, smoothness, and scale. But none of those problems is the problem of a $25 light roast. That history matters because the chemistry points the same way. Start with the headline claim. Cold brew is less acidic than hot brew. The more honest answer is, it depends what you mean by acidic. A 2018 study from Rao and Fuller in Scientific Reports measured the pH of cold brew and hot brew side by side. Same beans, same ratio. The result? Both fell within 4.85 to 5.13. Statistically identical. What's actually different is something called titratable acidity. Total acid load, not perceived sharpness. Cold brew runs about 28 to 50% lower titratable acidity than hot brew. So when someone says cold brew is smoother, what they usually mean is they perceive less acid load on the tongue. That's real. It's also why cold brew can feel round and easy, even when the measured pH barely changed. But that perception comes at a cost. This is the first place the marketing gets slippery. pH tells you one thing: how acidic the liquid measures at a point in time. Titratable acidity tells you something closer to what your mouth has to deal with, how much acid is actually present and available to be neutralized. So cold brew can honestly taste less sharp without being some totally different low acid category of drink. It's not magic, it's a different acid profile. Because the same temperature difference that lowers titratable acidity also changes which compounds make it into your cup. Hot water, somewhere between 195 and 205 degrees, extracts a wide spectrum, organic acids and aromatics, brightness, sweetness, and melanoidins that give the cup body. Cold water steeped for 12 to 18 hours favors a much narrower band. Smoothness, low bitterness, chocolate and nutty notes, low sharpness. Both are real extractions. Both work. But cold brew is not just hot coffee in slow motion. Time helps, but it does not perfectly substitute for temperature. In Fuller and Rao's cold brew extraction work, caffeine and chlorogenic acids approached equilibrium after roughly 6 to 7 hours. So when you see recipes calling for 18, 20, 24 hours, a lot of that extra time is not unlocking a secret second coffee. It's mostly waiting. The bigger variable is still temperature, what cold water is good at pulling and what it is bad at pulling. But they are not the same extraction. And here's the part the marketing leaves out. Cold brew isn't fake, it's just selective. And sometimes it selects out the thing you paid for. Light roast specialty coffee, the bags that cost $20, $25, $30 and up. Those bags are priced for a specific flavor profile. Organic acids and aromatics, florals, citrus, stone fruit. The complexity that survived a careful light roast development. That's what specialty means at the price tier you're shopping in. And cold water tends to mute that whole register. That's the frustrating part. The coffee can be objectively excellent. The roast can be careful. The producer can be named. The processing can be clean. And the method can still steer the cup toward the least specific version of itself. Not bad, just less identifiable. Now, before you throw out your toddy, the fix isn't stop cold brewing. The fix is matching the method to the bean. Here's the grid that should be on every coffee shop wall. On the rows, roast level. On the columns, iced brew method. Where they intersect tells you whether you're going to love what's in the cup. If you bought a darker roast, an espresso blend, a chocolate-forward Brazilian, a Sumatran, a French roast, cold brew is exactly the right tool. The slow cold extraction pulls the chocolate and the body and leaves the harshness behind. This is what cold brew was built for. Look for bag language, like cocoa, molasses, caramel, roasted nuts, brown sugar, low acid, full body. Those are cold brew friendly promises. Cold brew can make that style taste cleaner and sweeter. If you bought a light roast single origin, an Ethiopian Yurga chef, a Kenyan SL28, a Colombian washed geisha, cold brew is the wrong move. Look for bag language like jasmine, lemon, peach, bergamot, blueberry, blackcurrant, white grape, orange blossom. Those are flash brew promises. They need hot water to show up clearly. Those coffees are not expensive because they taste generically coffee-like. They're expensive because someone is promising named origin character. Lemon, jasmine, peach, blackcurrant, bergamot, blueberry, whatever the bag is trying to show off. You're paying a premium for the bright, the floral, the fruit-forward, and you're brewing it with the one iced method that systematically dims those notes. Same coffee, different method, completely different cup. So if cold brew is wrong for your $25 light roast, what's right? Flash brew, sometimes called Japanese iced coffee. Here's the recipe. Take a Hario V60 or any pour-over dripper, a glass carafe. Fill the carafe with ice, about half the total water weight. So if you're brewing with 300 grams of water total, you put 150 grams of ice in the carafe before you start. Then brew normal hot pour-over with the remaining 150 grams of hot water. Same ratio you'd use for a hot V60, about 1 to 16 coffee to total water by weight. Grind in the normal pour-over range, maybe a little finer than your everyday hot recipe, because you're brewing with less liquid water. The hot extraction does the heavy lifting, pulling the organic acids, aromatics, sweetness, and complexity. The ice cools the brew quickly as it lands in the carafe, so more of that character survives into the glass. Total time? About 4 minutes. Pour it over fresh ice in your glass. Serve it over fresh ice, not the partially melted brew ice, and the difference is not subtle. Same beans, same dose. The flash brew tastes like the bag promised. The cold brew tastes fine, smooth, generic, And if your first flash brew tastes thin, the fix is not complicated. Grind a little finer, or use slightly more coffee. If it tastes sharp and hollow, slow the drawdown down and make sure the bed is not channeling. You're troubleshooting it like a pour-over because that's what it is. Hot extraction, engineered to land cold. That is the whole trick. You don't need a new category of coffee gear. You need the extraction temperature of hot coffee and the serving temperature of iced coffee in the same cup. So here's the gear stack. Hario V60-02 in plastic. The cheap one is the right one. Plastic actually insulates better than ceramic for pour-over. $12. Stagg X if you want the design upgrade. Same physics, better looking. About $80. Keep your Toddy or your Mizudashi for the dark roasts and blends. Cold brew is still the right tool for the right beans. And bean-wise, links in the description for both rosters. Light roast picks for flash brew. Dark roast picks for cold brew. The practical rule is simple. If the tasting notes sound like dessert, cold brew is probably safe. If they sound like fruit, flowers, or a named origin you're excited about, flash brew first. And if you want recipes, gear breakdowns, or the Brew Dial-In Tool, that all lives at jr.coffee. If you spent $25 on a bag of coffee, you should also be watching out for what's killing it before you even brew it. That video's right here. Subscribe if this helped. We'll see you in the next one.